Hey, welcome. This is vSphere Live for, gosh, what month is it now? It's September. I feel like August has disappeared on us. Where has the summer gone? And yeah, it's September, and we do one of these things every month. So this month, we have got the Power CLI guys on. I'm Bob Plankers. I'm a senior technical marketing architect in the vSphere technical marketing team. And I'm joined, yeah, like I said, by one of my immediate coworkers, and then the Power CLI developers and development team too. Why don't we just go around the room, as it were, here and introduce ourselves? Let's go counterclockwise. Let's start with Jatin. Jatin, who are you, man?
I think you know me, right, Bob? I work with
Well,
you.
I know you. Yes, other people don't know you. Who are
Okay.
you?
Thank you.
What
So
is your
I'm senior technical marketing manager at VMware. I look into core vSphere platform, as well as I look into Power CLI. So that's about me. And yeah, happy to be here.
excellent comment? Who are you?
I'm the engineering manager for PowerCLI.
Heck yeah!
I've been with VMware and PowerCLI in the last 10 years.
Wow.
I used to be a developer in the development team, and since oh it's two
It's
three
been a
years
while.
now.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been leading the team. Yeah.
Cool. Dimitar, who are you? Why are you here?
I'm software engineer at PowerCLI team, similar to Kamen. I've been with the team for more than 10 years now. So
Oh, nice.
that's why I'm here.
Congratulations. Excellent. Well, no, it's good to have you here. To all of the people that are out watching right now, thank you. Welcome. It's good to have an audience as well. One of the whole deals with this stream is we encourage questions. We will answer questions. We'll start with we've got topics to talk about ourselves. Most notably, these folks have put out a new release just a few days ago, PowerCLI 12.4. We'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. And in the meantime, if you've got questions, comments, thoughts, put them out in the chat, and we can answer them from time to time. We'll go through the questions and see what we can answer, or maybe maybe we'll wave our hands and then flee or something. Maybe it's a hard question, but no, no. So let's get into it. I've always wanted to talk about Power CLI. Power CLI, I think, is a really is a gem. It's a hidden gem in the whole VMware story. The ability to automate. It's so accessible. It's so easy to use. It's built on PowerShell. PowerShell's pretty cool. That was revolutionary as well. And so I know you folks have done a lot of work to make it easier to get. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Jet? And I think maybe you could tell us a little bit more about how do I get Power CLI? How if I was interested in starting with it, how would that go about? How would I go about
So I
it?
think the first thing which I would say, and few things which I would certainly put in place to set the context. I have like 6 years of experience, and I have started as a core VI admin, and Power CLI is basically my tool. It is the tool for every VMware admin who works with vSphere, Vsan, NSX, VMC on AWS, or you name any VMware product, we certainly has got coverage over there.
That's
Now, the exact question, how do I get there? I think nowadays it has been simplified to an extent that you just need to run a single command, install module, and provide the module name, which is vmware.powercli, and you are done. That's the only thing which you need to do.
So
Now,
it's
the
built
good
right
thing,
into the Microsoft repositories and all that stuff. People can just download it from whatever Windows workstation
yes,
they've got, that
yeah.
sort of thing.
So the default repository for PowerShell is PS Gallery. So whenever you hit install module, you basically reach out to the PS Gallery, and from there, whatever the binaries which are required you to run Power CLI, you get all of those things. The important thing about it is that recently PowerShell has released something like PowerShell Core, which is like cross compatible solution for PowerShell.
I was just going to
And
ask, what about Macintosh and Linux?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So you can run PowerCLI on Mac, Windows, any of the Linux flavor. And most importantly, Dimitar has worked on a community Docker image. So if you are the one who loves container and Kubernetes, you can run PowerCLI on container as well. That's
Oh,
community supported, not officially supported by VMware. But the thing which I want to say is, doesn't really matter whether it is x86 processor or ARM, or if you're working on any of the operating system. I think you have got the coverage on most of the platform which you can think of. So I think that's a great value proposition which you can think about Power CLI.
cool. We've got a couple of questions coming in here. Marino has got a question that we will get to. Actually, that's part of our whole plan here.
Oh yeah.
API coverage. Yeah, that's big topic here with 12.4. Keith, hey Keith, is there an offline installer? So if somebody's got a dark site or air gaps and all that stuff, is there any sort of offline installer that they could use, or a way to get this?
Yes. So two ways you can do this. First is actually built into within PowerShell itself. So for example, if you have a system which has got access to internet, you can run this command save module. Again, the module name is vmware.powercli. What it does is it basically downloads a zip binaries for all the deliverables which you need to run PowerCLI, and then you can basically copy paste that binaries to the system which is like in an air gap environment. The good thing is I can once I have the time, I will share the links in the chat which has got online as well as the offline installation guide. So that will be quite handy for the community.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Afterwards, I like putting the links in the well, maybe not in the chat, but in the comments and the text for the video. This video will be out on our YouTube channel basically permanently. And so, yeah, people can take a look at the links and things like that. So that's really cool. Thanks for the question, Keith. Good to see you. There's some DSC questions in there too. That's also part of the plan. We were just talking about that. But let's get to let's move on here. That's Common right behind you there. Is that a new Power CLI logo?
Yeah, absolutely.
So all the old stickers like collector's items now?
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's
I can
true.
make like
this is the new. Yeah, absolutely. I also have some of them. So
cool. We'll be rich in a few years.
This is our new Power CLI logo that we're introducing now with Power CLI 12.4, and as you can see, it shows how Power CLI is moving from something that was considered purely on-prem to a tool that also manages the VMware cloud products.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned it, because logos are like names, they're hard. You want them to be meaningful. They're not just these things that are plopped out there, they're really thought through. And so, no, that's very cool. Well, we started down the 12.4 route here. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about it? What's one of the biggest things in 12.4?
Well, there are several big things in 12.4.
Well,
one is
what's your favorite?
The API support that Dimitar will talk more about in a minute. But probably the other big highlight of 12.4 is the new vSphere management module with PowerShell-based commandlets. The interesting thing here is that these commandlets are purely PowerShell-based. They are all written in PowerShell. So our customers can just open the commandlet code, see what we're doing there. They can see how we use our APIs, how we call them, and stuff like that. So that's really, really powerful.
What were they written in before? If they're not, because I guess from my perspective, I've always just thought they're all just PowerShell, but I guess it makes sense that they wouldn't be necessarily. What were you folks writing them in before?
Yeah, before they were written in C# and compiled. So you were just getting a DLL and you couldn't just open it and read it. You could if you really wanted to.
Well, yeah, I suppose.
But, yeah,
this is a lot more accessible.
Now it's much easier, yeah.
So did you retrofit everything, or this just this is an ongoing project, or there's new ones
that's an ongoing project, and just the new commandlets will be included in there, because we have more than I think 800 or 900 commandlets now in PowerCLI, and it would be a gigantic effort if we had to rewrite them.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can also show a quick demo.
Yeah,
of these new.
Which one do you want? Do you want the
second
vCenter?
one?
Not
no,
this
the
one.
other one.
The other one. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
As you folks out that are watching can see, this is an unscripted sort of experience. So really appreciate all the questions coming in. Hi to all of you. Welcome. And yeah, we're getting into some of the new PowerShell release features here right now. So yeah, go ahead, comment. I'm sorry.
Yeah, here we can see the new module, vmware.powercli.vcenter. And if we open it up and go into the commandlets folder, we can see all the new commandlets. They're just PS1 files. And if we open them, we can see the entire code of the commandlet. The documentation is also in line here in the PS1 file. And yeah, customers can just read the code and see everything that we do, how we do the magic of PowerCLI, and how we call the APIs and stuff. Because sometimes our APIs might not be the most trivial thing to call, and
well, it's clear VMware has learned things over the years, and the APIs have shifted and things. So
true, and they can also see the types that we have. And there are also some additional SDK modules. But yeah, now let's demo some of the new commandlets. The first new commandlets
looks like some certificate
model, yeah, exactly. They are certificate management commandlets. This is one of the features that our customers have been asking for a long time.
Yeah, I do a lot of the security and compliance technical marketing work with vSphere. And so I talk about certificates a lot. And so I'm looking forward to having some time, probably after VMworld now. And this is a good, that's actually a good question. I should write it down. We should talk about VMworld sessions. But yeah, I'll let you continue.
Yeah, so now we have a commandlet that can show us the trusted certificate store of our vCenter. Here we can see that we only have the default certificate.
Hey, is it possible for you to make the fonts a little bit bigger? People are saying that it's a little blurry for them.
I'm sorry, yeah, but I cannot do that. It's a pre-recorded demo, so
is it okay? Okay,
cannot make it. Cool. Yeah, cannot make it bigger. Yeah, here we can add a certificate to our trusted certificate store. And now if we do this check again with get VI trusted certificate, it shows us that we have the new certificates added to the store.
Really
and cool. Yeah, we can also see what is the current machine certificate on our vCenter. And we can see here that it is also the default one. And next thing that we're going to do is we're trying to change this certificate. You can see we can also check that through the web client. Yeah, to change this certificate, we need to first create a CSR, which is the signing request. We send this signing request to our certificate authority, and then they sign it, and they send us the certificate. So here we're creating the signing certificate. We're sending it to a file, and then when we have the certificate itself from the signing authority, we can read it from the file, and we can use the set VI machine certificate to actually change the machine certificate on our vCenter. And yeah, after we change this certificate, the vCenter actually reboots. So that to apply the setting. And yeah, that was the main reason why this is a pre-recorded demo, because waiting for the vCenter.
It's like a cooking show, like, here's the final product, like we baked a cake,
Yeah, absolutely. And now here we can see that the certificate on
cool.
the vCenter is now changed with the new one. So
that's really cool because certificate management, how do you get those? There's a lot of organizations that care deeply about those certificates and want to change them. Hybrid mode is a great way to go. Just replace the vCenter, the vSphere client certificate like you just did, and then let the VMCA, the VMware Certificate Authority that's built into vCenter Server, handle the rest, that sort of thing. So no, that's really cool, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We can also change the ESXi certificates independently if we, for some reason, want to set separate certificates on the ESXi hosts and so on.
There's a lot of organizations that do that, and this level of automation is going to be really key because, especially with certificate expirations being, I think the standard now is 397 days. That's a lot of work once a year. So,
yeah, absolutely. Another nice feature that we added in this release are some optimizations around Vsan and how we manage the Vsan data stores. I can also show a quick demo of that. If we switch to the other demo,
I can do that.
Okay, yeah. So here we have 3 VMs in our environment, and they're set on the Vsan data store. And here we can see that we have 3 subfolders in the Vsan data store for each of the VMs. So if we connect to this server in PowerCLI, then we can use the PowerCLI storage provider to actually browse through the data stores. This is something that we've been having for a long time, and it is very, very easy to use. So we just changed the drive to a drive called VM Stores, and now crazy, we can browse through the data store just like we're browsing through our folders.
That's absolutely crazy. I love it.
Yeah, but for the Vsan data stores, for example, folder names for some reason that's the Vsan implementation are GUIDs instead of the friendly name folders that we are used to. That's why we added the friendly name property to the data store folder objects, so that now customers can also use a friendly name this property, so that they can see what the friendly name of these folders are. Nice. And the other big change that we did in this release was to enable downloading of Vmdk files from Vsan data stores to your local file system, so that we can just say that we want to copy the Vmdk of VM1. Here in the path, we can use both the friendly name and the GUID name, so we can just write it like this. This was a feature that many customers were asking for, especially many VMC customers now with everything on VMC being put on Vsan data stores, and there were a lot of customers asking for a way to copy their Vmdk files from Vsan data stores.
Well, it's really important as we try to stop using SSH and things like that. Try to shut a lot of that stuff off. Those are troubleshooting interfaces in vSphere, and so making it easy to use other APIs and use the normal interfaces where there's a permission model and all of that stuff is really important. So this is really cool.
Yeah. So these are some of the the highlights of the release, and the other one is of course the new way that we're giving customers access to all the REST APIs. But that's something Dimitar will talk more about later.
Well, let me hijack you for just a second. Dimitar, we will get to you in just a second because the APIs, there's a bunch of questions in the chat about APIs. Sorry, man. You're the star of the show for many of these commentators here. Absolutely, because they're asking about these APIs. Let's see if we can get to let's see if we can answer some of these other ones. Let's with the new PowerShell release, what are all the new PowerCLI features that are incorporated? Do we have a blog post, or how can somebody find out what's new in 12.4? Release notes, that sort of thing?
Right. So we have blogs.vmware.com/PowerCLI. And if you access that, we have what's new with PowerCLI 12.4. But to answer Siddharth's question, I think if you look at the PowerCLI release from the feature point of view, then you will feel that it's not a feature pack release. But when you look at from the API implementation and the way we want to move forward from here, I think in that particular sense, having the REST API PowerCLI binding is something which is really great. And just to explore more on this particular topic, what Kameen has shown is the certificate management module, and he has rightly said that it is a PowerShell based module. And when we say PowerShell based module, and I think this is a challenge which we at PowerCLI team is currently facing. So just to give you a perspective, PowerCLI has been around since like 2007, and I was jokingly saying to all other friends of mine, I was 16 at that time, right? So it's
Making
quite
me feel old, man. Making
yeah.
me feel old.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a decade long investment which we have made into PowerCLI, and we have at least 800 plus CMDlets. Now, if you think about VMware Cloud, now if you think about NSX, now if you think about VRA, customers are asking us to provide the PowerCLI coverage on these solutions as well. And the challenge with the existing development methodology which we have internally is we use SOAP APIs, we use our own .NET bindings, like what Kameen was saying about C# bindings. And then on top of that, we have something called JSON RPC as well. So if you execute get view, you are basically executing the SOAP API. If you execute get CIS service, you are actually executing the JSON RPC behind the scene. And if you look at the implementation of these bindings within PowerCLI, it's not very friendly for a system administrator to come in and then contribute towards the PowerCLI project. So if we want more and more features which we want to get into PowerCLI, I think the PowerCLI development has to be simplified. And that's the exact reason why we are introducing something like the open API bindings, or we are calling it as vSphere API bindings with PowerCLI. So once Dimitar will get into the details of vSphere API bindings, you will see how easy and how simple is to use the REST API with PowerCLI. So this just an overview of where we want to head towards in the near future. And I'm happy to say that we do have an intent of open sourcing PowerCLI. And don't get me wrong, I'm just using the word intent. I'm not saying PowerCLI is currently open source. I'm not saying we will be open sourcing PowerCLI in next couple of weeks or months or a year. We are exploring the
Working
opportunities
towards it.
And for that reason, I think having a good API binding certainly helps everyone to come and contribute towards PowerCLI project. So I think this is the perspective which in which we need to look into PowerCLI 12.4 release.
Cool. Well, we keep building up this open API stuff. We better get to it pretty quickly here. I do want to clear out a couple of other questions here. This isn't a question; it's a comment. It's kind of like at VMworld. This is more of a statement than a question. PowerCLI rocks. You have fans, you guys, and there's some folks that it's good to see you. The blog, any blog for commands to start with, the PowerCLI blog, Jet, and you had just mentioned that. There's an active community, communities.vmware.com as well.
Yep.
And so we'll get to some of that stuff towards the end. I do want to mention that some of the code examples, it looks like people are seeing them blurry. That's probably YouTube auto scaling and the stream.
Yep.
It looks like if people are forcing it to 1080p or 720p, that they're able to see it. If that's not working for you, this stream will be on our blog, on our YouTube channel, which you should subscribe to. I'm a big fan of the YouTube channel, being on it myself right now. But you should subscribe there, and you'll be able to find this whole video, and you'll be able to stream it however you want. And so the resolution, it'll become clear that way too. I know that's not a perfect answer, but it's the best we can do right now. So let's see what else. We've got some other stuff out here. The certificate manager question: can we manage VMCA now using 12.4 than using certificate manager? So common, we'll make this the last question before we get to open APIs. So the commandlets that have for certificate management, how deep do they go? They're interacting with VMCA? What are they doing there? The VMCA is a certificate authority. This individual Gopi is looking to not have to use the CLI anymore to replace certificates. Will what you just showed allow him to do that?
Yeah, we can totally use now PowerCLI to replace all the certificates on the vCenter, on the ESXi hosts, to add and remove certificates from the trusted certificate store. So all of that can now be done easily with PowerCLI.
Can you interact with can you change out or regenerate the root certificate that's on the VMCA, or is that still something that we need to do with the other tools?
I think that's something that we still cannot do.
Okay.
I think there was no API for that, and
that's very possible. Yeah, not to put you on the spot, but I think that's going to be a big part of what we're trying to get done here. So no, very cool. That's changing out that root certificate. I know there's stuff on roadmaps and APIs. Our APIs are not perfect, as we've kind of talked about. So speaking of imperfect things and the quest to make them better, Dimitar, why don't you tell us about this mythical open API stuff that we've been dancing around here? Let's get to it.
Yes, let's get into some details about these topics, PowerCLI and APIs. I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah.
Then we'll get into the details.
Okay, go ahead. Yep, here, I'll add you to the stream here. It's Dimitar's live demo.
Okay, cool. So if you want to access something from VMware programmatically, no matter whether through APIs or PowerCLI, you should definitely visit this website, developer.vmware.com. What we have here is the complete PowerCLI reference with some user guide, how to install it, all those kinds of things. So this is the website of how to use PowerCLI. You can search for commandlets here. You can also switch to the API reference. And what we try to do in PowerCLI is, if we don't have something as a commandlet exposed in PowerCLI, to give the users the ability to code APIs directly. And some of you are probably familiar with this get_view commandlet, which is basically the entry point to the vSphere Web Services APIs. And these APIs are, they have their own model. And get_view was the way we decided to expose these things. So these APIs have managed objects, which are basically objects with methods. They have some data in there, which are shaped in data objects. And yeah, these APIs are web service APIs, and they have their own modeling. But if you don't have something that is available as a commandlet, you can switch to this API using the get_view commandlet and basically code the API. What I'm going to do right now is I will do I'll run some code to show you how to access the vSphere Web Services APIs. Okay, I'm going to connect to vCenter server. That's the first step, of course. So we need a vCenter server connection. And then, as I said, we have we have this service instance, which is the root object of the web services API. So what we can do here is to call the get view and the name of the managed object, which is the service instance. And we're going to retrieve this API object. So this is the service instance. And for example, if I want to see the VC version, I can go and check the service content about info, and there I'll probably find the information about the vCenter server. So if I go to service content actually, and about, and let's see whether we have property version. So this is my vCenter server. And I can also print the entire data object. So this is how to switch to the web services APIs. But in fact, for everything new that is available in vSphere, it is added to the vSphere REST APIs. And in this release for PowerCLI, what we decided to do is to expose all the vSphere REST APIs in PowerCLI, and to make it a bit more easier to use for PowerShell users, because this way with the get view, it is more like using objects and methods. It's not pure PowerShell experience. As you can see, we retrieve a single object and then we search something that is like a property or method or something like that. What we decided to do with the REST APIs, we decided to produce commandlets for each and every API operation. And the REST APIs are basically HTTP operations. So you have URL, you have to use some specific HTTP verb, you can pass parameters. They could be part of the URL, or they could be structures that are passed as the HTTP body. And we decided to do some integration with this website as well, because you can go here, browse some APIs, and if you want to call something, let's check something for the appliance, for example.
Can you drill down into the health check settings? There's a question out there about the health check stuff. Can you show that for a second?
Okay.
Hey, look at that. Yeah, I forget who in the comments was asking if you could look at some of the health check stuff, but yeah, it looks like there's APIs for it. Cool. Thank you. Sorry to disrupt the demo, but we can clear out a question too.
Okay. So the thing is that if you don't find, let's for example search in PowerCLI for something related to time sync. Let's do that. And we don't have commandlets for time sync. If we switch to the API reference and go to the vSphere REST APIs, and we don't have search field here, but we can just browse the different APIs and see what we have exposed here. If you go to appliance, for example, and find this time sync keyword, let's see what we have here. We have get time sync API operation and set time sync API operation.
I'd also like to point out, I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but hey, there's also a question about being able to manage the appliances out here. And so this is exactly what you're doing, right? Managing the appliances too.
Exactly.
Cool. Very cool.
Okay. Yeah. What we have right here is this PowerCLI client example. And these are the new commandlets that are one-to-one with the API. So we have them in PowerCLI 12.4. So we are able to copy this example and go here, and having this vCenter server connection, we can paste this code here. Oops, I didn't copy it, probably. Okay, and I'll run it. And what we'll see, this basically invokes this API. So there is some setting here. It says host. I can go here and read more about this API operation. The documentation is not completely detailed, but it says get the time synchronization mode. So it seems like my time synchronization mode for this vCenter server appliance is host. Let's see what other operations we have here. We can update it somehow and set it. Okay. And here is, again, a PowerCLI example. So you can copy it and paste it in the PowerCLI console. But the interesting thing here is that we have some input to this operation. And it has this structure with some property mode, and this is some value disabled. But how we decided to expose the APIs here in the REST API specifically, we decided to use two types of commandlets. One of those is initialize, which initializes an input to an operation. And another one is invoke. So everything that uses verb initialize and invoke is actually access to the API. This is not a pure PowerCLI commandlet, because in PowerCLI commandlets, what we try to do is to design things in new set, get, and remove commandlets. Here, to distinguish between the PowerCLI commandlets and the API commandlets, what we decided to do is to have just two types of commandlets, initialize and invoke. And invoke actually calls the APIs, the API operation, and initializes some input to the operation. And in this case, as you can see, we have to prepare some input to this operation using this commandlet, and we are able to call this invoke set time sync API operation. For example, if I copy this and paste it here in the console, the cool thing is that this mode is actually enumerable. What we have as an option here is to use the tab completion to see what are the available values.
That's nice.
I really like that. Thank you, whoever invented this, whoever populated it, you guys, whoever. I really enjoy the tab completion. I'm an old Unix guy, and being able to see what the heck I'm up to here and what my options are, glorious. Thank you.
Dimitra, just one more comment. If you execute the same API bindings with a verbose switch, PowerCLI will also tell you that which API operation it is actually hitting on the vCenter server. So verbose actually gives you the API endpoint as well, which it is currently executing. So that's another gotcha which we have in the new PowerCLI API bindings.
That's cool. Yeah. Let's call it. It seems that I am able to disable this time sync option on my appliance. Let's see what will happen. So another thing that I can use the pipeline here. I can initialize the input to the API operation and pipe it to invoke. Let's try whether exactly. And now, as you can see, this API doesn't return value. So it's not like PowerCLI commandlet experience. Probably if you set something using PowerCLI commandlet, it returns the value. But the thing is that in PowerCLI, when we develop the commandlets, what we do is when we update something, we get the value and see whether it is updated on the server. Now with the API, it's a bit different because this is the API call, and this API call doesn't have return value. If I want to get whether this value has changed, I have to call the get time sync again, and let's call it and see whether I have updated it. Cool, it's updated. So yeah, you can basically use the website and find the examples, copy and paste, and run them. But all these commandlets are available in modules, and the modules have a dedicated prefix. If I call get available modules here, name, VMware, all of the modules that contain commandlets with that cover APIs are with the prefix VMware SDK. And now we have vSphere, and if we use .tar and list available, those are all the modules that we have for vSphere APIs. So all those modules are actually modules with advanced functions, initialize and invoke, that are covering all the REST APIs for vSphere. As you can see here, we have number of modules for appliance. We have for content library. We have for vCenter multiple modules, for vStats, and so on and so forth. And another cool feature is you are able to get help, integrated help here, and you basically reading the API help when you use the integrated help. But another cool thing that we have is if you use the online switch for the get help, it opens a browser and goes to the API reference here. So you can read about the API. So we have this integration with the website, which we hope will help PowerCLI users to, when they want to use the APIs, to go here and there, read the documentation, see the examples, and code them.
And that website is developer.vmware.com?
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, because I know when you search for PowerCLI things in Google, you get a wide range of things, and so people should look for the answers, the search results that come from developer.vmware.com. Gotcha.
Yeah, absolutely. This is our new homepage there. Dimitar, if you switch to the PowerCLI part, here we tried to build together all the information about PowerCLI. We have links to the user's guide, to the release notes, to our community, to our features request page, examples repo blog. All the commandlet references are here. So this is the one-stop page currently for PowerCLI, and this is also something new. We introduced that several months ago.
Hey, can you scroll back up a little bit? There was a feature request thing there. What's that? Because we've got some folks on the channel here, and I know there are some folks asking about permissions, being able to modify permissions and things like that. And
Absolutely.
I know
this is our feature request page where
you guys
people
listen
can
to the
add
community.
their
Oh my
ideas.
goodness, you know.
Yeah, and the community can upvote features, and we do triage these features before every release, and we implement some of those in
people
every
have
release.
Great ideas, you know. Feedback is great, you know. Like we don't at VMware, we don't use our products like everyone else uses our products, and that's just something about the software industry. And so I always tell people that if something is bugging them, or if something seems to be missing or could be better, if they don't tell us, we'll never know, you know. And so actually putting in a feature request for it is a great way to go. Cool, thanks. I'm sorry for the detour. I know I'm keeping you guys on your toes here by asking random things here, but I'll let you continue your talk, your Dimitar, and in common. I just wanted to take
a little bit more about the REST APIs, because there are REST APIs in PowerShell. There is this invoke REST method, which is really generic commandlet to call REST API. So you can use this, but with the commandlets that we produced in this PowerCLI release, the difference is that when you use invoke REST method, it is more like curl. You have to specify the URL. You have to specify the different headers of the HTTP request and body. You have to serialize the body to JSON and stuff like that. But having this commandlet, it is more easier to use them. You don't have to know what is the URL of this operation. You don't have to know whether this parameter is part of the URL, whether it is a query parameter, whether it is part of the body. All these things are embedded in the commandlets. And what else for those?
We've got a question out there. Is it possible to do a little demo of the create VM REST API from PowerCLI?
Yeah, sure. That's the most interesting part.
Speaking Speaking of keeping him on his toes, let's see how good he is with live demos. I live in fear of live demos, by the way. Live demos always go sideways for me, you know.
It's
and
really
we'll see if Dimitar's luck holds here.
As you can see here, this create VM REST API, it's different than the web services API, but this is probably the most complicated API that exists for this.
I see why they want an example, you know, like
And here is the simplest example, and what we have here that's really interesting is we have this example which is only for the required parameters. And as you can see here, the required parameter is to find a location for this VM, and you have to basically initialize the VM placement spec. You have to specify the folder, the data store, the guest OS, and then you can create the VM. But more interesting thing is if you switch to all parameters with this switch here, and see what is the all available input that you can provide for a create VM. And if you turn this switch on, and scroll a little bit down, you will see the example for all parameters. And the example for all parameters is so big. You can specify a lot of things. So probably that's the interesting part.
So maybe this example was not a good one to pick for a REST API example.
Yeah, it's not a good example for REST API. But this is the design of the VM. And VM can get really complicated when you create it. You can specify a lot of things, as you can see here. So hardware adapter, SATA create, break, and all these things. The good thing is that the required parameters are small. So you can start with small number of parameters and then use the update VM operation to update the VM somehow. Yeah.
Cool. No, appreciated. Here, let's see what other questions we've got. Is there a Power CLI poster for 12.4? I remember I had a poster in my back when offices exist. I mean, I'm kind of in my home office clearly, but back in a former life, I had a Power CLI poster. Are we doing those anymore? Who used to do those? Do we know anything about those?
I think. Okay, I'm hearing echo.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, is it good now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't
now
hear
it is good. Now it is good. I think the poster was a good thing, and I think we should still explore the opportunity to create Power CLI 12.4 poster.
Cool.
But my recommendation would be two things. First, get used to with developer.vmware.com/PowerCLI, because that's where the entire Power CLI documentation is. And another thing is, I do a lot of search within the PowerShell itself, and for that the command is get help. So I believe if you know these two endpoints, you can explore all the CMDlets which are related to Power CLI. But still, suggestion is welcome, and I will explore the opportunity to generate a Power CLI poster and probably revamp the existing one which we have.
Yeah, we have to check how easy it would be to fit all the more than 800 or 900 commandlets
the
that we
type
have
is
on the
so
poster.
tiny on it, with
Yeah.
900 commandlets and now all the API stuff, and oh my goodness, so it was tiny
should either
before.
be a really small size of the font, or it should be a billboard instead of poster.
Yeah, a giant poster. Maybe just print out developer.vmware.com and just hang it on the wall. Yeah,
that's a good idea. I think.
Well, it depends on how you define good, I think. But let's see. Let's pick some other questions out here. I'm sorry if I'm missing a question or two. I'm trying to keep track of them. If you've got questions, we've got about 13 minutes left or so. If you've got questions, put them out in the chat, and we'll try to get to as many as we can before we're done. We'll be done at past here. So, what's the coverage? So this is one of the first questions we had. What is the coverage of REST APIs versus old style APIs? Do we have pretty good coverage? I know vSphere 7 really made enormous leaps forward with APIs. What do you guys think about that?
I think it is still work in progress. I won't say we have reached to a point where we have got the complete coverage for all the products and solution. For example, recently I got a request to basically change the NUMA settings on a virtual machine. These kind of things are still not possible with REST APIs, but these kind of things are very well possible with Power CLI. So in terms of coverage, I think Power CLI is still way ahead of the current coverage of the REST APIs. But yeah, as I've said, this is work in progress, and you will see improvements down the line.
Hey, here's a question. Will the new features be added to DSC? You guys want to talk a little bit about DSC? What is that? Desired state configuration? How does DSC...
I think it's a very important project for us, and certainly one of my favorite projects. I keep talking about it. But one thing which we need to keep in mind that let's go back into a little bit of history. The current solutions which we have for managing the configurations are like host profiles. Even if you look at the host profile is still a client-side implementation. We are actually duplicating the existing configuration in an XML format and then presenting it into the vSphere UI. So the problem which I'm highlighting is vSphere platform doesn't really have the APIs which are currently built as a desired state APIs. When we talk about desired state, it basically have a concept of drift management, ensuring that you have a consistent infrastructure across the environment. But here is the thing. With vSphere 7, we have started seeing something like vCenter server profile. If you look at the vCenter server profile, these are the desired state APIs. And I can only tell you this thing, that we are working towards replacing the host profile, or I would say revamping the host profile to a desired state model. Now let's come back to the DSC. DSC is a desired state implementation of PowerShell, and we have got the DSC resources for managing the vSphere environment. But again, the challenge is DSC resources for VMware are still residing on the client side. So what you have is, you have the client side implementation of the desired state infrastructure, but still the backend APIs are not yet desired state. So there is a work in progress. We have something called VLCM config manager, which I'm fairly comfortable in saying that this will be in a reality in the future vSphere releases. And once we have that, we will explore the opportunity to map these desired state APIs with something like the DSC project. But at this point of time, the DSC resources are completely at the client side, and somebody have to create these DSC resources. Not sure if Dimitar has to say anything about DSC, but yeah, these are some of the initial thoughts.
I can say that I love DSC and I love to add more features there.
Cool. Well, no, that's good. The all this stuff is, I mean, all software is a work in progress, right? We just keep evolving it. And one of the nice things, VMware used to wait. We used to wait a long time, years between major releases to release features, and then it was all these features, all this stuff, all at once, and it was just like drinking from a fire hose, and it wasn't good. Power CLI is released independently of vSphere, right? Like you guys are on your own release cycles and own release train. There's other stuff like that. The VMware Tools is like that. There's a number of things like that, and so that's really cool, because as you develop things, you can get it out in the world faster, and that's really cool. Hey, speaking of that, let's pick out. There's a question about new modules for Power VRA and Power NSX. Do these sorts of things fall into your guys' team, developing these sorts of stuff, or is this another group? Are there other groups at VMware that are doing development of some of these things? I guess a question for you, Kevin.
Yeah. Well, with this new model that Dimitar just showed for the REST APIs, we have great potential to cover other VMware products that also have REST APIs, so that we can provide this low level, the way we call them are low level commandlets, to allow users to actually access easily the REST APIs through PowerShell. So this is something that we're already looking at for VMC and for NSX, and VRA is another great idea for that. And once we have these low-level commandlets for the API binding, it is also easy using the other thing that we showed, this new PowerShell-based model for creating high-level commandlets. In this way, it is much easier to also create high-level commandlets on top of the REST API commandlets.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's we can also think about such commandlets for NSX, for VRA and other products.
Well, just the API access itself, given the release model and the fact that products might new features might come out and there might not be support right then and there for it. As long as there's an API, you can call it and you can automate that stuff now. And so that really, before we had to wait for you guys to add something, and that miserable for you because we're all waiting for, our favorite commandlet, and miserable for us because we're all waiting for a commandlet, and now we don't have to wait anymore. And I think that's going to be really cool. So
yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, permissions. I think the permission stuff needs to go. The permission. There's a couple of people talking about permissions out in the chat, and that model, the SSO stuff, there's a lot of work going on in vSphere right now with SSO, and APIs are at top of the list. So that might be something that's good as a feature request, so that we can track it. I'll tell you that when somebody out that isn't at VMware, when I say something, hey, we should do something, everyone looks at me and says, oh, okay, Bob, whatever, but when one of you all that's out that's watching this thinks that we should do something, if you put it in as feedback, that's way more powerful than any of us suggesting it. So please do that.
Absolutely. When you mentioned SSO now, we recently released an open source module in the Power CLI examples repository, exactly for managing SSO. So users can now, using this module, they can now through PowerShell create users, groups, and so on in SSO.
That's really cool.
It's something that our customers were asking for a long time.
Very much so. And that's out on GitHub, the GitHub repository, right?
That's in the GitHub repository.
We have a couple hundred GitHub repositories out there under the VMware main account or whatever. So,
this is in the Power CLI examples repo.
Here, let's see. We'll put the link again. We'll put the links to the stuff in the comments for this video afterwards. Give us a day, and we'll put some of these links out there so that people can come back to them and take a look at it. But that's really cool. I had forgotten about that one, and I'd heard about it recently, and there's a lot of interest in that, especially given ransomware and all these security things that people want to be able to rotate account passwords and manage that stuff automatically, and that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Can you deploy Red Hat Linux VMs with Power CLI? Here's a softball for you, Dimitar. Can I deploy a Red Hat Linux VM with Power CLI?
Well, I don't know what's behind this question, but you can deploy any type of VM from a template. For example, if you have a template with Red Hat, you can deploy it, customize it, and you can do this with Power CLI. If you want to deploy it from scratch and install Red Hat there through Power CLI, probably that's not possible. But
once you have a template in that, you can use Create VM to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Create VM does everything, and that's both confusing and awesome at the same time. So. Let's see. What else do we have out here? Do we have any plans to do another session? I think this has been popular enough that we should actually. If you subscribe to our channel, this is a great opportunity to be a YouTube person and say, ring the bell, subscribe to the channel, whatever it is, if you're watching on YouTube, I know people are watching on Facebook as well. And thank you. And people are also watching via Twitter, the Periscope functionality on Twitter. And that's really cool too. And so, no, we really appreciate you tuning in. We will do more of these. This is really good. Let's see. Marino's got another question here. Let's just do a couple more because we're running out of time here, and then we'll wrap it up. If I get a VM with Invoke VM, I get a VM object with only a few properties or attributes. Different output than the old Get VM. Dimitar, you're shaking your head yes.
Yeah. The first thing here is that Get VM is not old. And the difference between Get VM and Invoke List VM or Invoke Get VM is that when you use Get VM, you use the high-level Power CLI commandlet, which fixes usability, adds more features in the VM object, and so on and so forth. The Invoke Get VM calls the API one-to-one. So when you work with Invoke commandlet, you work with the API. When you work with Get VM, you work with Power CLI representation, which is a bit different. And probably in Get VM, there are multiple APIs that are called underneath to display this bigger object for VM. That's the difference.
Just
yeah.
One more comment on this particular thought. Invoke VM is basically a low-level PowerShell function, which is like obviously the REST API bindings. These are the auto-generated API bindings. But when you compare this to something like Get VM, that's where our Power CLI developers invest their time and develop the valuable Power CLI CMDlet. So that's quite a significant difference between Get VM and Invoke VM. Invoke VM is simply executing the same REST API which you have available for vSphere. So that's the difference lies.
All right. Let's see. Do one. So what's what's new on Horizon VDI modules? I think we'll just chalk that up to stay tuned. Lots of opportunities there. Managing VDI is a real interesting thing. A vote for Power Verni as well, the vRealize Network Insight tool, which is actually really cool. I fired it up in my lab. I'm doing some firewall ports.vmware.com. We have all our firewall rules, and it's in it needs auditing, and I've been auditing all of that stuff with Verni lately. It's super cool. SSO admin saved me a lot of work, so props to you guys for doing that. Thank you. And then the last thing here we'll do, and then we'll wrap it up. Is there a difference in terms of performance between the legacy PowerCLI mode for VM creation and the new mode via REST API?
Yeah. Again, the old create VM commandlet is not legacy, so it's still there. This is the high level commandlet, which is much easier to use. You saw that when you use the create VM API, it's huge and could really become pretty complex. So when you want to make some customizations, while in create VM we've tried to keep it simple. We've tried to keep the number of parameters lower and easier to use in PowerShell. But yeah, in terms of performance, calling the API directly will always have a better performance. So when you call the API directly, it's a very simple call, one call to the API. When you call a high-level commandlet like create VM or get VM, it's got a bunch of different API calls to make things more simple from the user's perspective. So probably using the API directly will have better performance, but we try to keep this performance impact really small so that you don't feel the overhead too much.
Cool. Yep. And the other takeaway is quit calling our stuff old just because it's been around for a long time. We get that with vSphere all the time too. vSphere's old, well, it's been around for a long time. Yeah, but there's really new stuff in it. And we keep rewriting stuff like vMotion. We rewrote vMotion for vSphere 7, and so it's definitely not old, but I understand. Like it's clearly we take it personally when you say legacy and stuff like that, but I get what you mean. It's been around for a long time, and that's both the beauty of this stuff and sometimes it hurts too. So this has been a great chat, and why don't we go around the room again and just final thoughts. We'll go clockwise this time. We'll start with Dimitar. What are your final thoughts? What if you have one thing to tell this crowd, what would it be?
I would like to ask them to try the REST APIs through PowerCLI and provide some feedback. How do they feel? If we have something to fix there and improve them, we'll definitely do that.
Very cool. Thank you, sir. Kamen, what's up, man? What would you tell these guys?
I would encourage everyone to use our features request site. It is very, very useful for us, and our community is our number one source for new features, and we definitely want to see what the community wants, and we're trying our best to implement everything that people want. As you said, when a feature request comes from a customer, it's 100% more important for us than when it comes from inside of the company.
Very cool. Jetin, final thoughts?
I would say it's easy to use. So if you are the one who is not an experienced PowerShell or PowerCLI user, check out the vSphere YouTube channel. I will be posting out getting started with PowerCLI session. Probably it will be up by tomorrow. If you are an experienced PowerCLI user, explore the REST API implementation and give us the feedback. And last but not least, I would say PowerCLI is still relevant, and we guys are here to make it happen. So have trust in us. Thank you.
Heck yeah. Well, thank you very much, guys. This has been a great conversation. We've had quite a number of people on. And yeah, Marino's commenting, please put the feature request website URL in the description of the video. We will do that. Give us a 24 hours or so. We'll make sure that a bunch of the links and resources that we've mentioned get up there. Thank you for tuning in. We'll do another one of these in October. The fall is among us here, and as we get into the colder times of the year, at least in the northern hemispheres, welcome if you're from Australia or South America. Glad to have you, actually. But good for you. It's getting warmer, but up here it's getting cold, and so we will hunker down with more Power CLI. I think we should do more of this in the future. Stay tuned for late October. Don't know quite the date yet. Depends on who our guests are going to be and what we want to talk about. Do we want to talk about VMworld recap? Do we want to talk about what's new in our products? That sort of thing. And so stay tuned and subscribe to our YouTube channel for updates and things like that. Thanks again to these guys. Wonderful to have them on. And yeah, hope you're all staying safe and are good to go. Take care.